Forms as well as rhino.fi.
Yes, so welcome everybody. If you're tuning in, you've probably tried to tune in for previous Twitter spaces between rhinofi and Index Coop, but unfortunately Elon decided to rug us not once but twice. So we've gone to good old YouTube and restream. So we should be live on like LinkedIn, YouTube, maybe Twitter as well. I'm not too sure. Um, and yeah, we're going to kickstart things. So for everyone tuning in, Index Coop offers multiple strategies for earning interest on your assets. And some of the recent additions that we've had to the rhinofi platform are IC and DS diversified staked ETH. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Index Coop today and some of the opportunities they offer on their platform. So, Cruz, welcome. Even though this is obviously your stream, please introduce yourself and how did you get into crypto and what motivates you?
Yeah, can you guys hear me all right? I've disabled the camera and put it back on. Looks like it's giving me a little red bar this time.
Yeah, we can hear you. It's just your camera
You,
issues.
you can hear me just fine. Well, I'll toggle that on and off a few times to see if we can get it going. But yeah, my name's Cruz. I'm the ecosystem growth lead here at the Index Cooperative, or the Coop for short. Um, I got into crypto really a few years ago. The backstory for me really is my dad's a financial advisor. Always wanted me to kind of take over the family business, and I said no. From my perspective, it seems like all you do is take meetings with elderly folks and tell them not to sell their S&P 500. So I wanted to work on the cutting edge of technology. Um, you know, Worked in enterprise software for a little bit, and then kind of fast forward 2019, 2020, 2021, really started to get into crypto. And I first bought one of Index Coop's products, the DeFi Pulse Index, um, when I was learning about DeFi and kind of exploring all these protocols. I wanted broad exposure to the space while I was still trying to figure out, which protocols perhaps were my favorite. And maybe I'd listened to my dad and his preaching of ETFs and broad market indexes in the past. And kind of once I found out that Index Coop was a DAO, kind of trying to be the BlackRock of crypto and build structured products on these new rails that were a lot more exciting to me, I got involved.
Brilliant. And did you get involved in crypto a bit before, or what was your first experience of crypto in general?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like many people, it kind of began by buying Bitcoin. That was certainly my first foray into the space. Um, Buying Bitcoin, I think I bought it on the Cash App was my first platform that I was really starting to buy it on the most. But yeah, eventually kind of learned about smart contracts and DeFi, and that's where it really got exciting to me. I think the idea of providing financial services to anyone in the world with an internet connection, and treating them all the same and using code as a counterparty, was fundamentally just extremely exciting to me. Providing financial services to everyone in the world. Yeah, that was it for me.
Brilliant. So you touched on obviously your dad being a finance advisor, and you obviously diverting away from the space or that particular area. But there are loads of new users in the space that have a history with safe investing within the Web 2 space, savings account, ISAs, so on and so forth. What would you say the biggest difference is between the options that are provided there and what Web3 can provide?
Yeah, I mean, I think on-chain index products, you know, self custody versus holding your assets in a centralized counterparty is by far, I think, the 0 to 1, the biggest difference. You don't have to trust someone else to hold your assets, especially when kind of the centralized, or sorry, the traditional system is built on a fractional reserve system where they just give you an IOU and then do all sorts of funny business that you're not necessarily privy to with the actual money. And we're obviously seeing a lot of cracks in the fiat system, in the way that traditional financial counterparties have operated. That's number one. Two, the composability of DeFi is a huge level up as well, right? Being able to use your on-chain index products as collateral being able to provide liquidity into market making protocols like Uniswap, being able to lend them out to protocols like Aave and Compound, and just tapping into the wide world of money Legos that we know and love here in DeFi. Gives you many different options. And then third, maybe you don't want to do all those things yourself, but you still want to kind of tap into the wide world of DeFi. So we can actually build products, and we'll get into some of them here today because they're offered on rhino.fi's multi-chain aggregator, ICETH and DSETH specifically. I'm sure we'll get into, but some of those products are actually using those different money Legos on the back end. We design it into the strategy and automate it. And we can bake all of that inside of one of our index products. So that's something you certainly could not do with your S&P 500 or whatever broad market index you may be holding in a brokerage account.
Definitely. So yeah, you touched on a little bit about Index Coop and the building blocks of Lego. So when did it first go live? Tell us a little bit more about what it does and any unique selling points.
So Index Coop broadly went live October of 2020. But the products that I think we're going to touch on today, DSETH and ICETH, are both ETH staking products. We launched ICETH first in April of 2021. Sorry, April of 2022. It's been just over a year of ICETH now. And then DSETH is our more recent product. Has been live for just about 60 days now. So it was launched in January of this year. So I'll compare and contrast the two of them and give you the unique selling points. I'll go actually with DSETH first. DSETH is the diversified staked ETH index. So it gives holders exposure to the top liquid staking tokens on Ethereum. Lido, Rocket Pool, and Stakewise are the first three included in that index. So you get to spread out your staked ETH across these top protocols. So, you're minimizing your slashing risk and adding diversification, which not only minimizes risk, but also smooths out the volatility of your staking yield or returns, especially in this era where withdrawals are not enabled yet, where you're really relying upon the market value of that liquid staking token. The peg to hold, if you will, which we've seen certainly some volatility in the last year, especially with the market leader Lido's staked ETH. So that's DSETH, right? You get diversified exposure to ETH staking yield. So that's been a nice 4 or 5% yield or so since the merge. You're getting on that one. And then ICETH, interest compounding ETH, is the full name for that product. That one uses some money Legos on the back end to leverage up your staking returns. So it uses Lido's staked ETH as collateral, deposits it into Aave's money market, borrows some more ETH against that, and then obtains more exposure to staked ETH. So you're using staked ETH as collateral to borrow ETH. So those two assets are highly correlated, right? It's not like you're going to get liquidated if the price of ETH goes up or down, because you got staked ETH as collateral and you've got regular ETH as the debt asset. And it leverages up around 3 times, a little under 3x is what the leverage ratio is currently at, and multiplies your staking yield. Because you have more staked ETH per ETH that you stick into ICETH, the yield on ICETH has been considerably higher than just a regular staked ETH product like DSETH. So we're talking anywhere from 6 or 7% APY is kind of what we've been netting, recently, and we certainly have seen spikes well over 10% in times where the staking yield goes up when ETH network utilization is high, or when the ETH borrow rate on Aave goes down as well. Those are kind of the two levers that affect the yield. There's the base staking yield, and then how much does it cost to borrow that ETH on Aave. So those are the two products. You got ETH staking yield as the bedrock foundational yield of DeFi, and then you can use some money Legos to lever up your staking exposure, and ICETH automates that for you.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was a great explanation. And there are...
The camera's back.
Nice. So there are quite a few yield projects within this space. but not all of them are growing at the same rate. What do you believe are the main problems that are preventing them from growing?
Yield products specifically. Um, they're I would say the number one thing, people on chain today are kind of the early adopters that are happy to actively manage their assets and run around and chase the best yield you can. So I think a lot of the yield really comes from just inflationary token rewards, and the more sophisticated or really just more active, more involved yield farmers are running around chasing those yields. And you can't bake in those yields that you got to run around and chase and, bridge into this chain and deposit into this protocol, dump the rewards, go over here, da 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 da. One, you can't automate that into a passive index product because you would have to write a new adapter and shift which protocol you're depositing into all the time. Two, you can't pile a lot of capital into the same opportunities because there's a finite amount of yield or rewards available, right? So it's like if millions and millions of dollars are going to flow into the same opportunity, the APY is going to crater. So those are two solid reasons for why I think yield products haven't necessarily been able to scale yet. Additionally, we could kind of talk about the institutional adoption has just not quite come yet. I think for compliance reasons, for kind of security and tooling and UX reasons, and certainly a lot of them are kind of waiting on KYC and whatnot. But that's a whole nother avenue for why maybe institutional yield seekers have not yet quite come on chain. But for why more yield products haven't been brought to the space, ETH staking yield is by far the most reliable quality source of sustainable staking yield, and that's why we've been able to put those products to market so far.
Nice. And do you think the introduction or the utilization of real world assets as it becomes more and more mainstream, that would also help the projects that are focused on yield?
I mean, the shortest answer is yes, absolutely. But real world assets quite interesting as a category, as a name. I mean, you go around doing some customer research. Hey, would you like to invest in real world assets? Like, what exactly does that mean? Like, do I want to invest in the banana farm down the street? So there's the variety of different things that are called real world assets. So a lot of the earlier projects are kind of here's some development projects. We're trying to build a solar farm in locale XYZ, whatever. Would you like to loan us some money and kind of create a bond? Sure, but asking people, do you want to invest in real world assets as a category is very different from kind of the digitally native, projects we've seen in DeFi so far. It takes a very different skill set and a different risk appetite, a different diligence process to figure out what you want to invest in necessarily. But broadly, yes, we need to bring more quality assets on chain, and we need a variety of different yield sources. And, I think Index is in a great position to repackage all sorts of quality assets, bundle them together into different risk profiles, different time horizons. We can create so many more interesting products that are useful and interesting to people when we have more quality assets on chain. Right now,
Great.
ETH staking yield is a great one. There certainly are plenty of other good projects in the DeFi space that we're happy to tap into. I mentioned Aave is baked into ICETH. We're working on a stablecoin yield suite that perhaps we'll talk about later that utilizes some quality protocols in the DeFi space. But absolutely, the more quality assets we can bring on chain, the more interesting products that we can bring to market.
Sweet. So on your website, there are three main products. You've obviously touched on the leverage side, but there's also sector and yield, just plain yield, I guess. Could you elaborate more on what each of these different products mean?
Yeah, so far we've talked about the yield of those three categories: sector, leverage, and yield. So far we've been talking about the yield products with DSETH and ICETH and the stablecoin yield suite that's coming soon. So the other two categories, I'll go sector and leverage. So we have sector indices. That was the first thing that we launched when Index came to market. DPI was kind of our first most famous product. It tracks the top DeFi protocols on chain, kind of like a sector ETF perhaps would in TradFi. Where all right, we've got a mandate, we've got a methodology, we're going to track this market. So all of the top protocols are going to get bundled into an index token, DPI. If you buy this DPI token, you're getting broad exposure to all these different DeFi protocols. We have more of those sector indices as well. We got MVI for the metaverse. So, a variety of metaverse related tokens are in there, from, Illuvium, Decentralands, anything in the kind of the gaming virtual world space, as well as kind of a little bit further down the entertainment tail. There's things like Audius, so a music platform in there as well. So we've got those sector products that are pretty straightforward, right? They track a given theme or sector. And then for the leverage tokens, we actually have a flexible leverage index suite. We call them the flies, affectionately, FLI, like a nice plane emoji, right? So we've got a 2x Bitcoin 2x fly and ETH 2x fly. So what that does is it automates a leverage position that gives you 2x exposure to the underlying asset. So if you buy the ETH 2x fly, what you're doing with the ETH in the background, you take ETH, deposit it into Compound, borrow USDC against it, and then buy more ETH, right? And then the product will automatically rebalance to target that 2x leverage ratio. So ETH goes up a little bit. You get double exposure. ETH goes up 5%. ETH 2x fly is going to go up 10%, right? And if it goes down, it's going to go down twice as much as well, because you get double the exposure for your ETH. And the same thing with the BTC 2x fly uses wrap Bitcoin as collateral and gives you 2x exposure to Bitcoin. So those are the three sectors of products that we have, the three categories of products that we have, rather. Sector indices, leverage indices, and yield indices.
Brilliant. So a question, especially which I think some users might be interested in. So the leveraged ETH strategy, you touched on it, of why liquidation risk would be smaller, because obviously you are only leveraging ETH. But could you explain, like in a black swan event, like the worst possible case scenario, how you actually reduce this liquidation risk?
Yeah, I mean, the shortest answer here, automated risk management is built into the smart contract. So for the ICETH product, right, it uses staked ETH as collateral, borrows ETH against it. So the metric to monitor there is the price of staked ETH measured in ETH, right? So it targets a 1-to-1 peg. Right now it's trading at a little bit of a liquidity discount. Maybe you get like 0.98 ETH per ETH. So with the near 3x leverage ratio that ICETH hovers at, the liquidation threshold would be around 0.9 ETH per staked ETH, right? So if that peg starts to falter down towards that 0.9 liquidation threshold, the product will automatically rebalance to sell some staked ETH as collateral to again improve the leverage ratio of the product, improve the health of the collateral. So we saw that in action last May, when, if you guys remember, a beautiful time in crypto, a dark time rather. With the USTD peg, with the Three Arrows Capital liquidation, with the Celsius liquidation, there were a lot of forced sellers of staked ETH, which drove the market price of staked ETH down in ETH. So the ICETH product automatically rebalanced to maintain a nice, healthy collateral ratio. So no liquidations were in play, and you just saw a little bit of NAV decay in the products, and that we had to sell a little bit of staked ETH at a discount, but we were able to make up for all of that with a few weeks of solid yield, right? Because you were only kind of selling down part of the position.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a great explanation. I'm sure many of our viewers will be more comfortable, because when they see leverage on social media and what they see, they automatically think extremely risky. So that's a great explanation.
Yeah, I mean, again, the key here, we're only borrowing correlated assets inside of ICETH. So, a flash crash of the price of ETH does not affect this product whatsoever. It's just the staked ETH to ETH ratio, which again, with the withdrawals coming soon, that really will not be an issue anymore because we will be able to redeem both ways, and any arbitrageurs can automatically kind of close the gap quickly. But yeah, I mean, ICE automates that strategy for you. A lot of people were doing that manually back then, and then all of a sudden USDT pegs, and overnight, if you didn't see it coming, you weren't able to improve to delever your position. You could have gotten liquidated. So ICE allows you to sleep soundly, go out, have a nice weekend. Don't click refresh 1,000 times watching the USDC or the UST, whatever the liquidity pools, which I think a lot of us in crypto, if you hang out on crypto Twitter, you saw a lot of people posting screenshots of the curve pool during these like huge liquidation events. So our smart contracts watch those pegs for you, so you can go out and enjoy your life.
Brilliant. So on to one of the big questions. So the main topic of this discussion is obviously sustainable yield for the DeFi ecosystem. 2021, 2022 shown us obviously the promise of high APYs. They always let users in, but inevitably they always lead to the collapse of the project. For example, AUST, Terra, OwnDAO, Magic Internet Money, so on and so forth. How does Index Coop want to change this narrative and prove that sustainable yield can be achieved within DeFi, but also with high enough returns to keep users incentivized to stay in the space?
I think we've touched on this topic already. It's just ETH staking yield as a sustainable yield source. You just got to make sure that when you're chasing yields, you understand where it's coming from, and make sure that yield is coming from a paying customer, right? In the case of ETH staking yield, the yield's generated by transaction fees for using the Ethereum network, right? It goes to validators and ultimately to staked ETH. And for the stablecoin products, I guess I'll kind of touch on here. We haven't built the stablecoin yield products over the last few years. We've been live for 2 years and change. We haven't built a stablecoin yield product because there haven't been sustainable yield sources available, right? Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of inflationary token rewards you can try and chase, and we haven't been able to build that into a passive product. But we're building. There's a product called the Money Market Index (MMI) that's live on our forum right now that we're working on. That's going to give a low risk, low to medium return stablecoin yield by bundling together a lot of top lending protocols. So your Aave, Compound, Morpho, and Notional is my favorite example here, where it's a fixed rate lending protocol, but the yield is organic. It comes from people paying to borrow the assets. So really, you just got to make sure that there's a fundamental reason for the yield. There's a paying customer on the other end of that, and you're not just taking someone's inflationary token rewards, or getting paid to provide liquidity for someone to dump on your liquidity pool.
Brilliant. And yeah, you have touched on it already, but is there anything else exciting coming up for Index Coop in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most exciting thing happening for Index Coop right now is our partnership with rhino.fi. You guys are a multi-chain aggregator that takes these tried and tested products that we've created. We build our products primarily on mainnet. We've deployed on some layer 2s as well, and launched some experimental products on Polygon and Optimism as well. And we'd love to have our products available to customers wherever they are, right? And y'all's multi-chain aggregator allows people to get access to our products on a variety of chains, right? Currently, it's Arbitrum, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, and newly zk Sync Era. So I think that's the most exciting thing so far. I mean, obviously, I've touched on the stablecoin yield products that are coming as well. We'll have other products coming out later this year as well. But I think the most exciting thing is making our products available in every neighborhood of DeFi. I think rhino.fi is an incredible distribution partner. For customers, they want our products available wherever they are. right? Whichever neighborhood they're on, whether it's Arbitrum, Binance Smart Chain, zk Sync, Era, etc. They want that same brand and like tested strategy. They want it in their neighborhood, and you guys bring it right to them. So I think that's the most exciting thing.
Brilliant. There was a question from Ivan in CIS region. Any plans?
What is the CIS region, Ivan?
I am not too sure.
How about you guys? I mean, the zk Sync launch is recent. zk Sync Era has launched I think a week ago today is when it went live, and you guys were ready to go from the get go. I think you guys had some incredible numbers in terms of number of people that have bridged over to zk Sync Era using your platform. Can you just kind of talk about you're excited obviously to be a launch partner for zk Sync Era, but what does Rhino being available on zk Sync Era mean for users?
Yeah, so at the moment, we're obviously thoroughly excited that on launch day, we got to work with the zk team and be one of the first bridges to zk Sync Era. In the last 6 days, we processed about 30,000 transactions, which is incredible. We did not expect such a high uptake in usage. Loads of people have obviously used the platform as well and invested in other opportunities because of what they saw. What's to come? Well, obviously, just like every other network that we expand to, cross-chain swapping is next on our agenda. Right now, obviously, zk Sync Era has very limited dApps and very limited activity, obviously, for pre-registered projects. So once this opens up, we'll allow our users to do more and more within the zk ecosystem. And like our strategy has always been, yield and cross-chain swapping. So more freedom for our users to essentially explore different ecosystems.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, can you talk a little bit again about how Rhino works on the background, because it's pretty novel, honestly, right? For most projects like Index, for our products to be available on all these different layer twos and different chains, we typically have to go create a liquidity pool. They provide some protocol owned liquidity. We've got to bridge our products over there and get them available on all these different decentralized exchanges that people swap on, right? So when we first moved first moved DPI to Polygon, I think it was the first time we brought a product to a new layer two. We had to bridge a bunch of DPI over there, open a liquidity pool on QuickSwap. I think we put together a liquidity mining campaign to try to get attract other liquidity providers to bridge their own assets and provide liquidity on these dexes. And it's a pretty cumbersome process, especially when you consider how many different layer twos and even all layer ones have been popping up. We really don't have the bandwidth or the capital to go and provide protocol owned liquidity or these costly liquidity mining campaigns and all these different chains. But you guys are able to make sure that our products are available on all these different layer twos.
Yeah, for sure. So we have several different methods of doing this. So I'll briefly touch on like the token swapping and then move on to other stuff. So we actually aggregate liquidity from 3 different routes. For big tokens like Bitcoin, Ethereum, we aggregate our liquidity from centralized exchanges. Now, what this means is there's obviously a lot of liquidity there, which means when users swap on our platform, they get minimal slippage. The next point of call would be our own AMM pools. So we have like a DVF ETH pool, a Lido ETH pool, and then one more ETH pool. So that's another place of a liquidity source. We also have the order books on the platform as well. So users can swap and trade against each other. And then finally would be the cross-chain, which most of our users care about the most. And this is actually really interesting. So what we currently have are liquidity outposts on each one of these chains. And when this allows users to deposit from any chain straight onto our platform. And from there, they can cross-chain swap. So users can, for example, deposit Ethereum onto our platform by obviously ETH layer 1. And then they essentially use this liquidity outpost that interacts with a smart contract that automatically buys a token for them and is stored in their own wallet on that chain. And that's basically a great way of summarizing it. And what it enables users to do is come from any outpost or any kind of chain and frictionlessly swap to any other token on any other chain, whilst also investing in any other yield opportunity.
Excellent. I think, yeah, liquidity outpost is an interesting phrase. A lot lighter weight than, as I mentioned, us having to bridge our own protocol on liquidity or create liquidity pools. It's almost underselling it, liquidity outpost. I think you guys are like a supermarket chain, right? You got a store in every neighborhood. Everyone can come get their favorite products right near their home on whichever layer two they're at. I think you guys are sometimes called the UX layer of DeFi. Can you talk about what that moniker means to you?
Yeah, of course. So, in fact, one of our co-founders, Daniel Yanev, he gave a great talk about this at ECC last year. I think there should still be a video of him, probably on our YouTube somewhere. But essentially, what we envisioned was DeFi is fragmented, and the user experience of navigating through the chasm of what is DeFi is complicated. If your friend has told you about a token and it's on a completely different network, the complications of buying that token are impossible. Well, it's not impossible. You can do it, obviously, but it's complicated. You'd obviously have to bridge your assets, change your wallets. If you don't have the native token to pay for gas fees, probably go to a centralized exchange, buy that, withdraw it to your wallet, so on and so forth. So we wanted to alleviate this problem in one simple solution, which is obviously the cross-chain solution. But a big problem of that was obviously securing liquidity on each one of these chains. And when users want to swap, they obviously want the best prices. So rather than sourcing liquidity ourselves, which was the original idea back in 2021, by having AMM pools for all of these different types of tokens, we thought, why not just become like a hub and spoke model, where users can come in via rhinofi and access these liquidity on all of these different outposts, if you will, and we just provide that front-facing UX layer, where we partner with Paraswap for aggregation of dexes and their liquidity. We partner with Index Coop for their yield strategies. We've obviously partnered with Sommelier Finance for other yield options. So rather than us doing all the work and competing with every single other project, we partner with every project and providing an easy to use platform for users to navigate and use each one of these individual products.
Excellent. Yeah, the hub and spoke distribution model. I mean, tried and true in the physical world. Let's give it a go here in the virtual world. There's a shared state across the internet on Ethereum, but it can be increasingly fragmented with all these different layer two options. So anything that makes cross chain commerce easier, I think, is a no brainer for customers. So, I mean, what we have to plug here, ICETH and DSETH available at rhino.fi. Try it out today. I think maybe one thing that maybe you haven't mentioned is rhino.fi kind of also gives a little bit of an element of privacy. Is that something that you guys market as well? Like it's, you can't see on a simple block explorer, that I bought token X, Y, or Z on chain X, Y, or Z, right? It gives a little bit of privacy to consumers as well.
Indeed, yeah. So we're built on Validium, and what this does is give kind of soft privacy to users. So from like a block explorer, because we're on layer 2, there is no kind of block explorer that users can see whatever you're doing on the platform. So what this allows is whatever strategy you have. So let's say you want to accumulate a certain token for a long period of time, then you can do that without other people checking your address, with loads of different tools like, is it dbank, where you can just monitor a wallet, see exactly what activity they're doing, and sometimes that can affect a price. I remember always monitoring SBF's wallet when he was actually a decent guy, and just be interested to see what he was doing. But with rhinofi, your actions are private. And sometimes, some users essentially deposit onto rhinofi and create a brand new wallet, send their funds on rhinofi to this other wallet completely gas free, and then withdraw it. So they have funds back on layer 1, but it's completely private.
Excellent. Yeah. So if you're on Arbitrum, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum mainnet, or zk Sync Era deposit into rhinofi. Try it out. ICETH and DSETH are on there, but they're not the only tokens. You guys have big yields on some stable coins right now as well. I think there's a promotion running. So deposit whatever you want in there, and you can earn some yield on your stable coins while you kind of wait or earn some ETH staking yield with our products.
Brilliant. I think that should be it for the questions. I don't think there's any more. So thank you very much for hosting us, even though we were supposed to host you in the first place.
Yeah, no, it's great to come on and talk to you guys. I think a lot of our users are really interested in rhino.fi, and you guys have building a lot of momentum recently. And sometimes it almost sounds people raise their eyebrows. What do you mean? It's private and gasless on any layer two? Like I've never seen this model before. What do you mean? So it's great to come on here and talk it out, and look forward to the distribution partnership. Many years to come, many different chains and many different products.
Indeed. Looking forward to it.
All right, thanks, Euclid.
Perfect.
And thanks everyone for joining us here today. Maybe we'll be on a Twitter Spaces one time in the future. Maybe Twitter Spaces will die. We'll adapt. All right, everybody, have a good one.